part on the right has a hugel pit under it. I dug a big trench and filled it with brush and then put dirt on top. And then it has wood chips, real coarse ones on top of that, which we put on top of the potatoes. So we've already dug our potatoes. Now we want to do a fall crop. So this right side, I had strawberries growing over and they'd spread, so I've moved them to the other edge. You can see a row of them there in the wood chips. Those are kind of rough chips. I think we got those from the power company or something. And anyway, over here, I've pulled up the onions and transplanted the ones I was going to save and the strawberries and dug it all, and it was super dry. And so I watered it in real good. And then it rained. We got about a quarter of an inch of rain, which made everything nice. And I've just dumped a bale of peat moss. We'll go over here. I got 2 of them at the store, so I've still got 1 left. One of these, 3 cubic feet. Pretty good sized bale of peat moss. And so that's what you see on the top of this narrower section. And I'm going to work that in with a fork. And then we'll just put in potatoes in both those areas. 3 rows I think I'm going to try putting in there. And we'll go for some fall potatoes this year. Okay, I've now worked the peat into the soil. And there's my, down there to the fork. So it is now ready for amendment. Our soil at this point is not rich enough to support crops without some sort of fertilizer. And I am reticent to use some animal manures because of the potential drug contamination and disease contamination. And so I feel like commercial fertilizer is safer. And I believe that its main hazards are using too much of it and using it without the application of organic matter. So if you add organic matter to support the microbial life of the soil, and you add a small enough quantity of chemical fertilizer to not interrupt those microbes detrimentally, significantly, then you can do some good work with a little bit of chemical fertilizer. I'm going to apply some rock dust, some azomite and soft rock phosphate, and I'll put a little bit of chemical fertilizer, a 10-20-10, and some ironite, and I'll work all that in. Then we'll set the potatoes on the surface, and we'll apply straw on top of that. We don't have wood chips handy this time around, and instead of going and getting them, it's going to be a lot easier to get a baler to a straw, so we're going to try that. I know it's been done, and we'll see how it compares to the wood chips. So that'll be the next step. Okay, here we are with fertilizer. There's our 10-20-10. And this is branded by Atwoods. That's where we bought that. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this oyster shell, and I have that here. I'm going to just put on part of the bed. They supposedly don't like a current application of lime, and so these are bigger pieces. I'm just going to try it on part of the bed, and we'll see if we can tell the difference. This is the 10-20-10, and here we have ironite, which is a 101. Importantly, it supplies some minerals. Iron is the worst one. This 10-20-10 actually supplies iron because the triple superphosphate that's used in fertilizers binds iron in the soil, so they add extra in different pellets. So this stuff has nitrogen, potassium, we don't care about that because we're already adding it. Calcium, sulfur, it's got a little bit of boron, that's important. Molybdenum, manganese, zinc. Okay, so this stuff, that's in addition to the iron. This stuff will add some mineral. It's necessary. Those are some of those are rather sometimes considered a secondary mineral rather than a trace mineral. And then we're going to put, we've already put azomite down. Oh, I haven't videoed that. I'll show you that in a minute. And it comes, there's that bag of it, and it's just a kind of a clay rock dust. And we have it mixed with phosphate. So there's the ironite. It's a little bit different color. It's mixed with different minerals. See, you've got different minerals and different pellets. So if you keep it spread through the soil, as they dissolve, they provide little pockets of that mineral and that mineral. So if the two interact with each other, but they're kept separate, then it still works all right. Okay, we're going to take these cans out there and put them on the soil. All right, here are my cans of fertilizer. Here's my bed. I've got my rock dust spread on there. I didn't measure it. I just sprinkled it out so I got that kind of coverage. And it was pre-mixed of rock phosphate and azomite. And so the rock phosphate provides predominantly phosphorus, but also trace minerals, and then the azomite contains 90 some trace minerals, a lot of things that you're not going to get elsewhere, including selenium, and including boron, including cobalt. That's important because vitamin B12 is cobalamin, either cyanocobalamin or methylcobalamin commercially, etc. So it's a molecule built around an atom of cobalt. So without cobalt in the soil, you can't have B12 production. People say it's not a vegetarian vitamin, you have to get it from animals. Where do the animals get it from? Well, the truth is, from my reading, there are free soil bacteria that will produce vitamin B12 if cobalt is present and if the soil is rich in microbes and nutrients and whatever those bacteria need to do that. So potentially, once your soil is sufficiently nourished and healthy and producing like it should be able to produce vitamin B12. And then the bacteria don't have to live in the digestive tract of ruminants, such as cows. It can be done actually in the garden. So I'm only reading other people's research. I don't know that from my own research. I mean, I have not conducted tests and whatnot. I'm just suggesting that it's valuable to apply the nutrients that might otherwise be missing from your soil. Okay, now I'm going to put these things on, and then I'll fork it all in again, give it another turning. That'll help get the peat moss mixed in more completely. Alright, I have completed the application of the fertilizer. Sprinkled it fairly uniformly over the whole bed, with the exception of the calcium. The oyster shells I've put in roughly a third of the bed in the middle. Those larger white chunks are the oyster shells, and I've put them in a section just in the middle. So if it ruins the crop, I'll still have the other 2/3, and if it's better, then I'll know. It's in the middle, so I have better light on this end and worse on that end, so I can compare that way and just see how it affects the crop. So when I dig potatoes, I'll be able to make some comparisons. I'm going to now stir that in with the fork. Alright, I'm doing this narrow side, and I've gone about halfway through. You can see how I've worked that in. I just came across, thought I would like to show you. This is elephant garlic we had planted here, and we dug these, but we missed some. This is not the first one I found while working the soil. So working it over good after you've harvested can be a good way to collect more stuff. This side over here is kind of shallow because it has an underlayment of brush, and so I probably won't use the fork. I'm probably going to use the forked hoe. I'll have to, let's see, I think it's leaning over here. Let me go over here and look. And, yeah, there it is. Okay. So this is probably what I'll use for the other side. If someone wants to tell me what that's generally called, then I'll know. So probably use that for a shallower working on the other side. And we'll set our potatoes out after we get this all worked. Are you recording?
Yes.
We need signs for this.
Action.
Okay, so we are here at the potato bed. We have potatoes laid out. We are following Paul Gauch's advice and putting big whole potatoes out because normally people cut up small pieces with 1 or 2 eyes, and after a few years they've got to get more seed potatoes from somewhere else because their crop degenerates. So by putting in the best instead of the worst whole ones, that's the idea. So this is from, like I mentioned before, from our spring crop, and so this is for our fall planting. And at least around here you cannot buy seed potatoes this time of year. So we are using ones that we harvested not long ago, which we would have liked to have eaten, but we broke down and bought some from the store to eat instead. We still have some of these, but not as many. Obviously, that's some nice potatoes. So we're still on a rather small scale. You can see how small this is. I have not done it with straw before. We did wood chips last year. So this is what's his name, Maurice Stout method. I think that's how she does it with the straw. I know that's how she does it. I just don't know if that's her name. Stout is right, but first name I don't remember for sure.
Ruth.
Oh, yeah, Ruth. You're right. It doesn't sound right somehow. So we did wood chips last year, but this same idea, or this last crop. it worked out very nicely. We had much better success than our previous potato growing. So I'll probably go get more straw. I put this in the back seat of my car, and I only have room for 1 bale of straw, so I'll have to run back down to the feed store and get more straw. But we did notice that the wood chip still stood to be deeper than what we did. We used what we had, so we could probably benefit from more straw rather than less. I am apparently the guest on the videoing experience here, but your host was indisposed earlier, so I went ahead and gave you a little clips in between the action.
Which is marvelous.
I thought that might be of interest to somebody. Anyway, there's nothing, if you've never had homegrown fresh potatoes, they're so much better than from the store. They're a delicacy. They are worth the effort just for the enjoyment, even if you only had them for a couple of meals. We've eaten several meals already, and we've got more in there. We just won't be, the rest of them weren't probably really baked potato size, so we may just make hash browns and french fries and stuff out of them. But they are crisp. They have a good flavor. They're moist. You know, commercially, they put something like Roundup on the tops to resuscitate them so they're dry enough they can ship them without damage and storage and all that stuff. So we didn't do that. We just brought them in and started eating them. And they're so much better when they have all that moisture in them. They are just incredibly tasty. Well, looks like I'm going to be able to cover the whole area. I still think another bale of straw would not be a bad idea based on last year's experience with how deep we bury them. Yeah. Plants don't seem to have any trouble shooting up through stuff like this. Yeah. That is a beautiful sight. Beautiful. Close to the bale here. All right, there you have it, our small potato patch and 1 bale of straw on top.
Excellent. That is marvelous. Thank you very much.
Certainly.